Hi, good to see you again. Welcome to Block 1, Constructing, Measuring, and Using Geometric Notation, Lesson 17. This is your last lesson in this block of learning. I'll share my screen. So, in your previous lesson, you learned how to interpret pie charts using a protractor. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to draw pie charts. Of course, you're going to be using a protractor. So, here are the things you need to get ready. Get ready paper for you to practice with. Get ready your protractor and get ready your pencil and ruler. Remember to like the videos, share the videos with those you think can benefit from it, subscribe to the channel, and click on the notification bell so that when new videos are released, you will be notified. Pause the video and answer these questions in 3 minutes. So answer the retrieval practice questions in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the retrieval practice questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So for the first one, you will ask how many degrees are in a right angle? There are 90 degrees in a right angle. What do angles on a straight line add up to? They add up to 180 degrees. Of course, to visualize this, you can see that this comprises two right angles, which makes up 180 degrees. What percentage of the circle is shaded? You can see that the circle has 5 parts. Now, I will going to call it sectors. So you'll hear me use the word sectors. So it's important for you to start to understand some of the vocabulary that we use in maths. So parts of a circle are called sectors. So you have 3 out of 5 shaded. Now, did you remember when we were doing the 100 squares, trying to understand what 1/5 really represents? 1/5 is actually 20%, or 1/5 is 0.2 as a decimal. So the percentage of 3/5, which is 3 lots of 1/5, will be 60%. The percentage of the circle that is not shaded is 2/5. So 2 lots of 20% will be 40%. Let's do some new learning for this lesson. Children were asked to vote for their favorite color. As your first example, let's explore this. If we have to complete the pie chart to represent the data, we would first mark a vertical line in our pie chart. Now, we don't really have to use a vertical line. That 0 mark could have been horizontal, it could have been upside down, but a lot of the time when we practice, it is good to have it in that position. So the vertical line of 0. Now we're going to mark 30%. So we mark 30% on the pie chart. Next, we're going to mark from 30% to 65%. You can see that green is from 30% to 65%. So we're going to mark from 30% to 65% on the pie chart. Next, we're going to mark yellow, which is from 65% to 95% on the pie chart. And we can see that what is left is red. Thinking about what you've learned, I want you to pause the video and answer question 3. Do not worry about the other questions for now. After we've done some further learning, you'll be able to answer the other questions in this lesson. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 3, here are the answers. So here you were asked, the table shows the numbers of wins, losses, and draws that a football team had in a season. Danny has drawn a pie chart to represent the data. Do you agree with Danny? Of course, no. You can see the way everything looks very wonky. So the pie chart, the data should occupy all parts of the pie chart, but he has just squashed it into one part of the pie chart. So Danny does not understand pie chart yet. So let's do some further learning. We're going to review our understanding of what constitute or how many degrees we have in a turn, half a turn, 3/4 of a turn, and a full turn. If we put our vertical line there and we draw another line to form a 90-degree right angle, if we make that turn, we have just done 90-degree turn. If we draw another line, which is a quarter turn, if we draw another line and we make another turn, we have just done half a turn. If we draw another line and we complete another turn, we have just done 3/4 of a turn. And if we make another turn, we have just completed a full turn, which is 360 degrees. So a quarter of a turn is 90 degrees, half a turn is 180 degrees, 3/4 of a turn is 270 degrees, and a full turn is 360 degrees. Let's do some further learning. A full turn is equal to 360 degrees. So 360 degrees represents 100% of the data within a pie chart. So you can see from our previous exercise at question 3 why Danny was wrong. Danny did not use the pie chart to represent 100% of the data, which means it should occupy all the pie chart. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to learn how to use the pie chart to represent the whole data that we want to represent. Let's see this one. Children were asked their favorite fruit. The table shows the results. The first thing I want you to know is that for a pie chart, we mostly work with degrees, not percentages, unlike the first example that we saw. Now, how do we take the total data in a pie chart and make it equivalent to 360 degrees? It is by looking for a special number that we can multiply the total number of data that we have to get 360 degrees. Another way of thinking about it is that special number, in this case, which is 10, we can get that special number by dividing 360 degrees by the total number that we have in our data. By doing that, we are trying to proportionately, take note of that word, proportionately represent each part of our data as a proportion of 360 degrees. So in this case, we know that that special number that we can multiply our total data by to get 360 degrees is 10, because 36 times 10 will be equal to 360 degrees. So 10 degrees is our special number. So it means we can now say the proportion of children out of the 360 degrees is 10 times 10 degrees. So we're going to do that now. So we'll say 10 times 10 degrees. The proportion of 5 bananas will be 5 times 10 degrees. The proportion of the degrees that 3 grapes will get is 3 times 10 degrees. And the proportion that 18 oranges would get will be 18 times 10 degrees. And that's the data. The next thing we're going to do is to use our protractor to draw the pie chart. Now, make sure you have a full circle and make sure you have the vertical line, which would be your first 0 mark. That is your 0 mark. It doesn't have to be a vertical line. It could be any other line on your pie chart. Step 1, we're going to position our protractor to make sure the 0 line, the crosshair of the protractor lines up with the middle of the circle, and the zero line, in this case, it is the outside scale, lines up with the vertical line. Next, our first one we want to draw is our first one we want to draw is 100 degrees. So we'll mark 100 degrees on the protractor. So let's go back to that. We'll mark 100 degrees on the protractor, and then we'll take a ruler and line up the ruler from the middle of the circle, from the center of the circle, through the point where we marked 100 degrees, but we just stop at the circumference of the circle. We don't need to extend it, draw it all the way to the point where we marked 100 degrees. Next, we're going to line our protractor at the zero mark where we stopped at 100 degrees. And now we're going to mark 50 degrees from that zero mark. You can see that we're using the outside scale. So we're going to mark 50 degrees, and then we'll take a ruler and draw that point from the middle of the circle to get to the point, but not up to the point where we marked 50 degrees. Next, we're going to position our protractor again. Notice how we're labeling as we complete our sectors of the circle. So we've labeled this apple, we've labeled this banana. The next one is we're going to start from the zero mark and draw 30 degrees. So we mark 30 degrees, and we take a ruler and draw it to the circumference just before the point where we mark the 50 degrees. The mark is just to guide us to know where we're going to draw our line segments up to the circumference where we're going to draw it to. Now you can see that this part represents 180 degrees, which represents oranges. So we'll mark the parts of the sectors with their correct labels. What about this one? Children were asked their favorite fruit. The table shows the results. How would you complete this table to show the number of degrees in each sector of a pie chart? Well, did you remember what we said? Regardless of the total number in our data, we're looking for that special number that we can use to multiply our total number by to get 360 degrees. In this case, the total number in our data is 45. Now, to get that number, we could do 360 degrees divided by 45 to get that special number that we need to multiply 45 by to get 360 degrees. And it is that same number, special number, that we're going to use to multiply each aspect or each point of the data to get the amount of degrees that we're going to use to represent that data. In this case, when we do this, it is 8 degrees. So if we had done 360 divided by 45, we would get that special number. And it's that special number that we're going to use to multiply each of these data points to get, okay, the degrees that we're going to use to represent 10 apples, okay? Or number of children, which is 10. Sorry, number of children to represent 10 children. So next we'll do 9 times 8, 8 times 8 degrees, and then 18 times 18 degrees. So now the next step is to represent this data in a pie chart. Okay? All right, it's now time for you to pause the video and do lots of practice drawing pie charts. So here is question 1. You were asked, the frequency table shows the favorite colors of a group of children. You have been asked, Philip is drawing a pie chart to represent the data. First, he needs to work out the angle of each sector. Here are his workings. So he did 18 divided by 36. which is 180 all over 360 degrees. The angle of the sector for red is 180 degrees. You're being asked to discuss Phillips' method with, with somebody. How do we complete the table? What is the clever way to do this? Well, you may be wondering, okay, why has he used this method? Why has he done 18 over 36, which is 180 over 360 degrees? Now, remember, so assuming you've paused the video, you've answered, let's discuss the answer. So remember, if we add 18 to 7, that would be 25. 25 plus 3 is 28. 28 plus 8 is 36. So what he is doing is Philip is trying to work out the proportion of this out of the whole lot. Why I like his method, although I like his method, I would rather we stick to what we already do. Okay, so we know that 36 times a special number of degrees will be equal to 360 degrees. So we know that adding all these up will give us 36 degrees as our total. So we have to represent 360 degrees within the value of 36. So to find that special number, he could have simply done 360 divided by 36. So that special number is 10 degrees. So every time he could simply just multiply by 10 degrees. Let's be very specific. By 10 degrees and by 10 degrees. And then the next thing is to complete the pie chart. So I'm not going to demonstrate, how to do the pie chart. By now, you've had sufficient learning throughout this block of learning, how to use your protractor to draw, to measure, and to draw angles. So that will be for you to practice. Let's look at the next one. Pause the video and answer question 2 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 2, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So for question 2, you can see that we have this data here, but how did we get the angle of the sectors? I like to discuss this because it is the most important skill when it comes to pie chart. Most of you know how to use the protractor to draw angles. You know that you have to line it up here at 0. You have to line 0 here, and you have to draw 93 degrees. Then you have to line the protractor at 0 where you drew 93 degrees to draw 168. Line 0 at the where you ended 168 and draw 75 degrees, and then what's left will be 24 degrees. You all know that, or most of you know that. So let's review. I need my calculator, just a minute. So let's review quickly what you have to do. So first, step 1, okay, it's important. Step 1, you have to know your total data. So it's going to be 31, add 56, add 25, add 8. That number is 120. So if you add all of these up, you will get 120. Now we want to represent 120 as the total data, which is equal to 360 degrees. So we need a special number in degrees that we're going to be multiplying these by each time to get the angles that we need to use to represent them in the pie chart. And that special number is by doing 360 degrees divided by 120. Of course, you can see that you don't even need a calculator to do this. You know that it is 3 degrees. So you can see why 31 times 3 degrees, 31 times 3 degrees will be equal to 93 degrees. 56 times 3 degrees, just a minute, my battery is running low. Okay, so you can see why 56 times 3 degrees will be equal to 168 degrees. 25 times 3 degrees will be equal to 75 degrees. 8 times 3 degrees will be equal to 24 degrees. So you have all the degrees that you can now draw in the pie chart. And when you finish, you can label parts of the pie chart with their corresponding labels. So I like this method. It's important because it's consistent. You can use it again and again and again. All right. Pause the video and answer question 4 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 4, here is the answer. So here you were asked, a group of people were asked to vote for their favorite type of music. The results are shown in the bar chart. So bar chart is just another way of representing data. We can also represent this data in a pie chart. So let's pick the data. So if we were to look at this data, you can see that that is 50. So let's write all the data points. That's 50. That's 25. That's 15. That's 35. That's 30. And that's 25. Now that you have your data points, the first thing you do, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 1, 2. Yeah, that's correct. The first thing you do is you add them. So let's find out our total, right? So frequency means how many. So it's telling you the data points, the data actually. So 50 at 25, that's 75. Add 15, that's 90. 90 plus 35 will be 125, plus 30 will be 155, plus 75, plus 155 plus 25, that will be 180. I think so, but let me just be sure. So 50 add 40, because 25 add 15 is 40, add 65, because 35 add 30 is, yeah, and then add 25. That will be 180. Yep, so we're right. So the total data is 180. Okay, adding these up gives us 180. Now, what is the special number that we need to multiply this by to get the angles that we need to represent on our pie chart? How do we get it again? We just divide 360 by our total. You see that? So that special number, of course, is 2 degrees, because we know 360 degrees divided by 180 is 2 degrees. So we're going to be multiplying each of these by 2 degrees. So 2 degrees by 2 degrees by 2 degrees by 2 degrees and by 2 degrees. So this gives us our angles that we're going to use. So that is 100. Let's do it real quick. 100 degrees, 50 degrees, 30 degrees. That will be represented by 70 degrees, 60 degrees, and 50 degrees. And then you will see that if you add these up, you're going to get 360 degrees. So once you get this data, the next thing is for you to just put it on your pie chart and then put the labels as required. Okay, here is this one. You were asked, a group of 45 people were asked to choose their favorite activity. So pause this video and see how you can use this information, how you can fill in the missing parts of the data. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the question, here is the data. So let's discuss how we do this. So a group of 45 people were asked to choose their favorite activity. Complete the table and draw a pie chart to represent the data. Now, you would see why it is important to get that special number. So we know our total is 45. We need that special degree that we are using to multiply this number by to get this number. Or if we want to go the other way, that special degree that we're getting, we can use it to divide this number to get that number. Okay, if you think about it, that's what is really going on. So we'll do 360 degrees divided by 45. So we need that special number. Now, 360 degrees divided by 45 is equal to 8. So that special number is 8. So to get what is missing here, we'll have to do times 8. And to get what's missing, if we know this here, we can do divided by 8. Okay? So that special number is really important. You can see why I keep emphasizing about that method. Okay, once you know the total, you can just use the total to divide 360 degrees to get the special number. Okay, so here we divide by 8 to go that way. Here we divide by 8. Okay, we're going that way. All right, we're getting the actual number. When you want to get the degrees, you multiply by the 8. Okay, here to get the degrees, we times by the 8. Yeah, by 8. And then now that you have all the degrees, how do you get this one? You can add them all up and you can subtract it from 360 degrees, or you can add these all up because by now you found this one, you found that one, you found this, you found that. You can add these all up and subtract it from 45 people to get this. And that brings us to the end of our lesson. So well done for learning about how to draw pie charts. Remember, a very important skill you need to know. If you know your total number of data, to find that special number that you can use to multiply each of your data points to get the amount of degrees that you would use to represent that data point in your pie chart, just simply do 360 degrees divided by your total value. Well done for sticking around, for taking your learning seriously. Until next time, take really good care of yourself and bye-bye.